Dr. Dyson, how are you?
Fine, my friend. It's great to be on your show. It's a wonderful opportunity to talk about some amazing ideas that we share and ready to chop it up.
Thank you so much for being with me. I just want to ask you how you're feeling, how the quarantine has been the last 10 months. What's it like for you as a professor, speaker, political commentator? What have you been doing?
Uh, Professing, media commentating, and writing. Not much professing, just writing
Yeah.
and commentating and doing speeches and that kind of thing. So it's been extraordinarily interesting, a fascinating time, of course, devastating for humanity, devastating for so many of us in this country. And I've been privileged and had the opportunity to work from home and to be able to articulate my ideas and share my beliefs in this forum, this new world of Zoom and other kind of technologically mediated communication. So it's been quite fascinating. Wrote a book,
Right,
had a
right,
book
right, right.
published
Got
December
to shout
1st.
out, long time coming.
Long time coming, Reckoning with Race in America. Finishing up another book, just trying to keep it going, my man. Trying to keep it going. How you been doing though?
Absolutely. Well, I've been doing pretty well with just keeping up with work and podcasting and keep myself busy. That's the best thing that I have been able to do is just keep myself busy and active. As a former athlete and someone who prides themselves on multitasking, I've been doing work, been doing podcasting and talking and having amazing conversations like this with you. And I want to talk a little bit about education because you are a professor, a distinguished professor of higher education. Now at Vanderbilt University, you spent many years at Georgetown. You're going back down south to
Mhm.
your roots. How you feeling going down to Vanderbilt University?
Yeah, it's like going back to Cali,
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Cali.
yeah,
If I'm going back to the South, I'm excited. I had a tremendous time at Georgetown, an incredible institution. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been there for 14 years, but to head down south to
yeah.
Nashville, Cashville, Nash Vegas
Uh-huh.
is a beautiful thing, man. I mean, I know Charles Blow recently wrote an essay in the New York Times about how black people ought to move back down south. So
Yeah.
I wish I could pretend I took him seriously, and now I'm doing it. I was ahead of that curve. I think it's extremely important. I think it's that remigration back north, back south,
Mhm.
is an important thing for those of us who are inclined to do so. Think about it. The black leaders that we've produced, Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King Jr., Andrew Young, Stacey Abrams, all out of the dirty South.
You just named
Uh,
all HBCU grads too now.
Come on now, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, going back down south to reunite with my former teaching assistant, now big time professor Tracy Sharpley Whiting, and with the dean of the Divinity School, Emily Towns, an extraordinary colleague, and the dean John Gear, and the provost Susan Wente.
Okay.
It's just an extraordinary opportunity to hang out at Vanderbilt and to try to forge connections with other colleagues and students to make sure that for this new decade we continue to uphold the high mark of serious scholarship
Right, right.
and communal engagement.
I can hear the excitement in your voice. The head down south, right? They
Yeah.
call what they call Ludacris or Ti, the Kings of the South. Now we got Dr. Dyson back down, in,
Trying
right?
to hang
But
out, trying to hang
but
out.
here's the thing though. Tennessee hospitalizations are up with COVID-19. Vanderbilt University has in-person, on-campus learning. How are you feeling about the coronavirus at the institution that you're going to and the safety precautions?
Yeah, well, I trust the folk down there, but I trust science and I trust, self-care. So, fortunately, I don't have to teach until the fall. So hopefully they're gonna work that out. where students are able to come to class safely and professors are able to be safe. I hope the vaccine will have clarified things by then. If not, your boy might have to sit out a while.
Well, what do you say? The vaccine's out. President-elect Biden just got the second dose
Got the
of the vaccine.
second dose of the vaccine,
Just
man.
got the second dose of the vaccine. So if you're a teacher going back into the classroom, are you going back without the vaccine?
No, man, I'm gonna have to let them check it out first, though. Okay, it's good. It's good. All right, all right. Then I got to try to get that vaccine, bruh. If I'm gonna be in the classroom, and hopefully I'll be able to. I have certain environmental allergies, so I want to test it out on some other people, see if it's working, and if it is, right on. Then I'm down for the cause, because I'd rather be vaccinated than not. And this thing is serious. And then the second strain is coming around, so it ain't no joke. And I think I take it quite seriously, as so many millions of others do. And so I want to take every precaution to make certain that I am safe, that the young people are safe, that the university community is safe. Of course, we want to take every precaution to guard against the possibility of a COVID outbreak, or to be vulnerable to that particular virus and its new strain down there in Nashville.
COVID-19, like you said, there's been outbreaks. It's impacted our schools and our communities. But you named a bunch of pioneering HBCU figures, Stacey Abrams, for one, Andrew Young, and other leaders, Black leaders over many years. How do you see COVID-19 impacting not only higher education, our colleges around the country for years to come, but also our HBCUs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, look, obviously it's forced many of us inside, into the virtual classroom, expanded our capacities, deployed the technology to exploit it for the advantage pedagogically and intellectually, and in terms of scholarship and interactions with each other. So it ain't the same as being in the classroom itself, but it beats not having any kind of interaction at all. And so it will shift those responses of those institutions. Now, institutions that have, more dough in the bank, more leverage, more capital,
Right.
they can afford some of the, online stuff. For HBCUs, if they ain't got those physical bodies there and those students on campus and counting the dough and the money you get from people being on, in residence, that's a strain on the economy of an HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, in the interest of the nation for us to have a vaccine. It's in the interest of our collective health to have a vaccine, but it's certainly in the interests of HBCUs for us to relatively quickly find a means to control the outbreak of this virus so that people can physically get back to school and, give a sense of vitality and to help the coffers of those beleaguered institutions.
I mean, many of our institutions, like you've already mentioned, a la Howard University and the pioneering HBCUs, are already facing a lot of these financial struggles. Now they're being hit with a virus that disproportionately affects everyone that's on their campus.
Yeah.
I don't, people need to be able to wrap their heads around what type of impact COVID-19 might have, not only on Black people as a whole, but all of our institutions, like you hit on.
No doubt. The church and the schoolroom of the HBCU, those are, even though we know we have, thousands upon thousands of non-Black students who attend HBCUs, but disproportionately, you're absolutely right. It affects Black and Latinx people, but especially Black folk in these Southern and Northern institutions that are dedicated primarily to the education of Black people. And as you said, already under assault and duress financially, that financial duress is exacerbated by COVID-19 because it removes bodies from the classroom and removes monies from the coffers. And the other side of the ledger is really taxed with that Black absence. And as a result of that, these institutions are scrambling to figure out what to do to adapt to online learning, of course, that many of these institutions have had to do.
Struggling.
But at the same time, again, without having physical contact and people on campus and in residence, it puts a cramp in the style of financially of these institutions. And again, it is in our best interest to, as quickly as possible, find relief for them by seeing if this vaccine can work.
Well, you mentioned some of the struggles like online learning and distance learning distractions that not only HBCU students and college students face, but we got the kindergartners all the way up with the teachers and every level who are faced with the difficulties of the new normal within schools.
Mhm.
But on top of all that, you're battling your mental and your emotional health, these
Yeah.
traumatic events of COVID-19, racial justice, Black Lives Matter movement. But, as a teacher, as a professor, how would you advise and help your students cope with everything that's gone on in the last 10 months?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. There's psychological counseling and advice that needs to be shared with our students to turn to professionals whose job and responsibility it is to help us be better able mentally to cope with our surrounding pressures and anxieties and situations. And for Black people in particular to embrace that. There's been a stigma and a taboo in many of our communities for, a taboo in many of our communities for mental health. We go to church, all you need is Jesus. No, no, no. Jesus said y'all need to get some chemicals and some talk therapy and some, couch sitting to address the persistent problems that plague us. So we need to have mental health, structured mental health support. I think we also need to have a spiritual practice for those of us who do, is to turn to that, whether it's faith or prayer or belief, good thoughts, meditation, yoga, whatever it is that allows us to relieve the stress, to become mindful of the opportunities we still have despite the traumas that we've endured, and to combat them with a healthy sense of self-regard. And then beyond that, we've got to beef up our commitment to social justice, because as you said, COVID-19 is met by COVID-16-19. So the persistence of racial injustice in this country is quite real. And with the George Floyd protests, not even a year old, May of 2020, and then us going through that, seeing another Black man die, seeing the worldwide outcry, the outpouring of enormous support for Mr. Floyd. But that's traumatic as well, to see that death, to see other deaths, to see also Jacob Blake get shot, and then to determine, to have it determined that his shooter will not be held to account. I mean, this is a society in which we live, where the horrors and the traumas and the tragedies of race continue to beleaguer us, continue to bewitch us, continue to hurt us. And we have to address them with the greatest attention to not only self-care, but to other care for the community, care for Black people whose bodies are at risk and vulnerable to ongoing police brutality, police mistreatment, the refusal of the society to acknowledge our humanity. And then on top of that, have COVID. So you got to pray, you got to go to your therapist, you got to have some spiritual practice, and you got to develop bonds of community and intimacy within families to make sure that we're holding each other up.
Right. You talked about the taboo of mental health in the Black community. You are a distinguished professor of African American diaspora studies, talking about 1619 and the history of Black folks in this country. And now you're going back into the classroom and teaching them about, the Black struggle and the Black experience. How are you going to incorporate COVID-19, racial justice, all of the trauma that we've been facing over the last year into the studies that you bring into your classroom?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I do this all the time, so it's quite natural for me.
Yes,
it's
sir.
a natural extension of my pre-existing condition,
Amen.
my pre-existing pedagogy, my pre-existing syllabus, which attempt to wrestle with race, its consequences, its manifestations, the obstacles and barriers it presents, the impediments that must be overcome. So I am constantly engaged with thinking and reflecting and talking and writing and engaging this issue. So it's a natural outpouring of rhetorical, of intellectual, of literary engagement with this idea.
Mhm.
And it's important to help our students understand it by putting it in historical context. This ain't the first time we've been under assault. This is not the first time this nation has been under a plague, 1918 with the influenza, but also think about the quote natural disaster of Katrina and what happens when Black people are faced with forces of nature that are unleashed against us that reveal our relative risk and vulnerability in comparison to our white brothers and sisters or non-Black brothers and sisters. So it's a constant retooling of a syllabus that is always already taking into account the traumas, the hurts, the pains, the tragedies, the possibilities, the resolutions, the solutions, the hope that resides in Black communities. All of that together is constantly thought about, looked at again. Books on the syllabus of new books that come out to address it, older books that address older issues, and to figure out ways to enable our students, to equip them with the proper mindset, outlook, and tools of analysis that help them survive this plight and predicament of being Black in America.
Well, Dr. Dyson, I see your bookshelf. I told you I love seeing your bookshelf in every single interview that you do. It just shows what type of thought-provoking leader you are. And then also the numerous books that you've written, and most recently, Long Time Coming, A Reckoning with Race in America. But I'm going to put you on the spot right now. If you were to give a book title to the year 2021, looking ahead, what would it be?
Looking ahead, 2021. If I were to think about a title, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. That's what I would title it. I don't believe God brought us this far to leave us. And so despite the tragedies, despite the heartbreaks, despite the setbacks, despite the horrors we've confronted, I believe we are still as a people looking up to the hills from whence cometh our help. That as a nation, we must continue to push forward, that nothing in the way of an obstacle or an impediment can prevent our ultimate flourishing and prosperity if we are deeply invested in challenging ourselves to live up to the ideals of our democracy, to live up to the ideals of our people's quest for emancipation, and to insist that no matter how dark it has been, the light will come, the morning will arise, and we will be able to push forward. So if I were going to give title to 2021, given all that we've been through and all the hurt and the hate and the pain that we've endured, I'd say, God didn't bring us this far to leave us. That sums it up in a nutshell.
It does sum it up in a nutshell. That's a perfect title for us moving forward out of these dark days. And there have been some really, really dark ones. But I appreciate you for that word you just gave. Professor Dyson, Minister Dyson, preaching up here, the academic, the thought-provoking leader and distinguished professor at Vanderbilt University now. He's going back down south, everybody. Professor Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, thank you so much for being with me. Is there anything else you want to leave? You want to push the book one more time, the political commentary? You have the floor, sir.
Well, I'm honored to be on your show. It's a great opportunity to speak to brilliant, young, articulate, handsome Black men like you who will carry the banner of our people forward and to do excellent in your chosen profession and bringing us media that is enlightening and engaging. So yes, I wrote Long Time Coming, Reckoning with Race in America, for us to put that on our national agenda and to wrestle with the racial catastrophe and cataclysm and chaos that was revealed. So I'm honored to be here. I want you to continue to do a good job, and I'd love to come on again and chop it up with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate everything that you gave to us today and your words over many years in the books and the political commentary and everything that you do. I really do appreciate you being such a mentor and a role model for us young Black men and students everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My honor, my brother. God bless you.
Thank you for watching Max Out Time. Please share and hit the subscribe button below. AJ out.